Welcome to a successful classroom. This is the second video in the ScriptEd volunteer training series. By the end of this lesson, teachers will be able to identify 3 routines that are essential to a successful classroom, implement techniques to build relationships and connect with students, and demonstrate best practices when giving students support during independent work time. Take a moment to think to back when you were in school. Picture your best classroom experience. Think of your favorite teachers, your favorite classes. What made those classrooms such great places for learning? How did you feel when you were in those classrooms? What activities were the teachers and students engaged in? For many of us, when we think of successful classrooms, we think of teachers who were planned, prepared, and used every possible minute of learning time well. These teachers knew us as individuals and genuinely cared for our success. They believed in us, coached us, and pushed us to strive for more. These classrooms were fun, engaged learning environments. Unlike the boring lecture-style classrooms, these classrooms were made learning interactive and enjoyable. We were encouraged to want to continuously learn outside of the class and to build upon the tools and information given to us. There are just 3 key ingredients that teachers can use to develop the successful classroom we just described. 1, establishing strong routines. 2, building relationships. And 3, being supportive. Let's start by discussing routines. Routines are super important to creating consistency and urgency in the classroom. Clearly established routines that students do every day in the same way will mean there's no confusion about expectations and as much time as possible can be spent on learning. Here are 3 sets of routines you'll want to establish in order to have a really successful classroom: entrance, in-class, and exit. During each of these parts of a class, you want to make sure you already have set routines to provide a clear and dependable structure for your class. Let's talk first about entrance routines. An entrance routine is all of the activities students need to do immediately upon entering class to set themselves up for success for the day. Take a moment and look over why entrance routines are important and some examples of them. Entrance routines might look slightly different across school sites, but they should include all of the elements needed for students to be ready for the day ahead. Next, there are in-class routines. In-class routines are all of the logistics needed for students to move quickly between activities and also move efficiently. Here, we are talking about how a teacher gets students' attention before giving instruction, or how students access materials or get help. Laptops at 45 is a favorite phrase in the ScriptEd classroom, as it helps remove a distracting screen from in front of the student and indicates to the student that you want their attention. Finally, we have exit routines. These are all of the activities that students need to do before exiting the classroom to wrap up the class in a productive and efficient way. You'll need to think about how students are saving and submitting their work, shutting down and putting away technology, and completing their exit ticket for the day. Again, routines are all about urgency in the classroom. Classes go quickly, and you need to use every minute wisely. Additional techniques for supporting urgency in the classroom include giving lots of deadlines and reminders to students. For example, if students have 10 minutes to complete a task, give them a 5-minute reminder and then a 2-minute reminder. Planning which routines you want to use is only half the battle. In order for the routines to be successful, you need to communicate them to students and teach them what the routine is and your expectation for it. It is important to have clear and concise directions so that students know what's expected of them. Take a look at the examples on your screen. Which one is more clear? The example on the right doesn't give the students much direction. Where should they sit? What should they do when they sit down? It doesn't answer these questions. The example on the left gives students more specificity in what is expected from them as class is beginning. Let's move on to the second key ingredient for a successful classroom: building relationships. Building relationships is super important because, like Rita Pierson says in her TED Talk, if your kids don't like you, they aren't going to learn from you. It's important to build positive, productive relationships with all of the students in your classroom. Building relationships with your students create a positive classroom culture. So, how do you build relationships? Here are some important ways. 1, Get to know students' names and greet them by their names daily. This shows a student that you know who they are and recognize them as an individual, not just another face in a classroom of students. Take an interest in your students. Ask them what kind of music they like, what TV shows or cartoons they're watching lately. Our students are so diverse and have lots of interests that might surprise you. Let your students get to know you. Share your interests with them, offer to listen to their music and share your favorite music with them. Talk about your hobbies and interests. Set boundaries and follow through. Setting boundaries means keeping in mind that these are young people who are still growing and learning. They need to know what behavior is expected of them, and you are there to help them operate within those boundaries. Hold them accountable for meeting expectations. Conversely, if you say you're going to do something, do it. Reliability is key to productive relationships. Offer precise praise often. The more specific the praise, the better. Take a look at these examples. Compare "great job" to "Courtney, I like how you remembered to put the H1 tag in the body." Finally, make the class a safe space for all students. Now we'll move on to our final key ingredient, being supportive. Students want to know how they can improve. There are 2 ways you can help them improve. 1, by giving feedback, verbal and written, and 2, guiding students to understanding. We'll talk about both of these in greater detail now. Feedback needs to be PSSP. The first P stands for prompt. The sooner you give feedback, the more valuable it is to student improvement. Think about your own job. If you were working on a project and your manager waited 3 weeks to provide you feedback on your assignment, you would probably feel as if the task was unimportant and that the feedback wasn't as helpful as it would have been 3 weeks ago before you continued down the wrong path. The first S is for specific. Aim to provide feedback that targets 1 to 2 areas of improvement and 1 to 2 things they did well. The sandwich method works well at providing praise, sandwiching in what needs to be improved between praise and then closing with further praise. This allows feedback to end on a positive note and for students to feel encouraged. The second S is for short. Keep your feedback short so that students can take it in and you don't feel overwhelmed having to provide lots of detailed feedback for several students. The final P is for positive. Students should feel recognized for great work and understand the ways in which they can grow. If a student feels positive about their learning experience, they're going to want to continue to grow. Let's take a moment and read through this feedback. Gary, I really like that background image. It looks like you put a lot of thought into making it transparent, and I can still read the words on top of it. Next time, I'd like to see you add even more contrast between the image and the text. Do you think this was good feedback or no? If you said this was good feedback, you are correct. This feedback is very specific and short, and it provides the student with a clear area to improve on for next time. Now let's read through this example. Yeah, that looks great. I really like it. Keep going, dude. Do you think this was good feedback or no? If you said this was not good feedback, you are correct. First, the teacher doesn't address the student by their name, a missed opportunity for relationship building. Second, the feedback is not specific. What did the student do great? What does the teacher like about it? Finally, the teacher doesn't indicate any areas for the student to improve on for next time. Let's turn our attention now to guiding students to understanding. When students are working independently, don't just leave them alone. They will rarely ask for help at first, and some might never do so. Here are some of the things you should make sure you do when you're checking in with students as they work independently. You can have the student articulate where they're having trouble. Have them describe what they've already done to try to solve the problem. Or have them tell you what they think they should do next. The goal here is to foster independent problem-solving skills with guiding questions. If you immediately give away the answer or tell students exactly what to do, this creates a missed learning opportunity. You can give them further guidance by providing a few examples on how to move forward and then let them know that you'll be back to check on them. Let's try it. Imagine you are circulating after an introductory lesson on creating unordered lists in HTML. A student has the following code on her laptop and doesn't know what to do next. What are 3 guiding phrases that you might use to help the student move forward? Here are some examples of guiding phrases you might have developed. Where are you having trouble? Tell me what steps you have taken so far. Or explain to me what you're trying to do. Finally, let's remember that the most important element of a successful classroom is that you are all having fun and enjoying your time together. If you're having a good time, your students will have a good time too. You and your students will look forward to your class if it's fun and enjoyable. That brings us to the end of the second video of the Script Ed Volunteer Training Series. Before moving on to the final video, Who's Who in a Script Ed Classroom, please take a few minutes and complete your exit ticket.